We have had instances where persons have made allegations of persons soliciting funds because they are deemed to be in breach of the allowed limit, or they have failed to declare currency. We have had prosecutions in that area. We have had instances where persons have made allegations where individuals may have made improper solicitations, but not for money, in terms of, I'd say improper approaches, in terms of passengers, which would be maybe deemed as infringement of a person's rights, or harassment. But that has been very minimal. And from the standpoint of statistics, and in terms of the staff size, we're approximately 1,400 persons. If you look at even if you say, well, you have 20 individuals out of 1,400, one would recognize that is a pretty low percentage. Well, I don't deal with perceptions. And I know that certain persons do focus group discussions and there are indices that are derived. But I would like to, first of all, share that we have an anti-corruption and ethics committee, which involves both public and private sector individuals. We have recently revised our integrity manual. We have a security vetting system, which is done external to customs by the Revenue Protection Division. And this vetting is ongoing. It's a policy, a security policy that we have. And in addition to that, we have recently implemented a breach database. The information from this breach database started in January, and that information will be uploaded to Asecuda World. So all breaches that take place, we will now have immediate information on the name of the importer. We'll have information on the officer who detected the breach. We'll have information on the broker who processed that application. And if it is that it's a false declaration, if it is that it's excess goods, etc. We are concerned about any level of leakage, whether it is 0.0%, 5%, or any improper act. But what we focus on is areas such as processing time. We focus on the historical data. We focus on the risk. We have staff rotation. We adhere to the Arusha Declaration, which has a number of strategies that customs administrations use to support integrity. And with these rotations, it builds capacity and at the same time also has a positive effect in terms of collusion. I would hasten to add that the majority of instances where we have detected significant revenue leakage has primarily been focused on importers who under invoice show improper costings with respect to freight or have excess goods which are detected by our officers. So if you look at the level of threat and you look at the persons carrying out the actions, I would say we have a greater threat in terms of persons who are trying to bypass customs in terms of revenue. When the Joint Select Committees had their first 2 sittings and we had further dialogue with the stakeholders, it appears that they may not have taken a very keen note of all aspects of the provisions. The increase in penalties, I think, was the trigger. But recognizing that once you're compliant, penalties would not apply. And it also demonstrated, or will demonstrate, that the powers of mitigation of the Commissioner given certain circumstances, will also be available. We'll also, in the regulations, be providing a schedule with respect to those penalties, because you want to remove arbitrariness. So I'm confident that the system and the amendments to the legislation as proposed will be effective. We have even made recommendations to the Trade Facilitation Task Force on proposed amendments in respect of floating facilities. Our laws speak to land-based areas. You have now floating dry docks, you have floating tank farms for fuel, you have floating dockyards. So based on our interface with the several sectors, we are able to use real-life challenges or situations to inform changes. The freight forwarder provides a very critical function to the importer, and you want to ensure that that freight forwarder is a bona fide individual. You have individuals in Canada and several places who act as a freight forwarder or consolidator, collect people's goods, collect their money, ship the items to either Montego Bay or Kingston. That shipment belongs to that individual. They know that there are 16 pallets or so for different persons. In that shipment may be 4 barrels of tobacco. That duty may be $5 million. It is being smuggled, it's detected. That entire shipment has to be cleared as a shipment. So you breach the importer for the tobacco, but the other 8 or so persons who have their goods, it's not consigned to them. And unless that person settles that breach, all those goods are lost. So that is why we want to license freight forwarders, and we already have licensed customs brokers to protect the consumer.